I had the honor of working closely with him after his retirement. We discussed India-Israel relations among many other things over many cups of tea. There have been countless others whose contributions are woven into India's rich fabric of life. Honorable members, there was movement from India to Israel too. When many Indian Jews migrated to Israel in the mid 20th century. Today, a vibrant Indian origin Jewish community lives here. They are contributed to the building of modern Israel in laboratories and hospitals, in classrooms, and also on the battlefield. They hold firmly that Israel is their fatherland and India their motherland. We are proud of them. Honorable members, India's connection to this land is also written in blood and sacrifice. During the First World War, more than 4,000 Indian soldiers laid down their lives in this region. A cavalry charge at Haifa in September 1918 remains a significant chapter in military history. Major Thakur Dalpat Singh, remembered as the hero of Haifa, symbolized the shared history. During my last visit, I was deeply moved to pay my respect at the Haifa Memorial for Indian soldiers. Honorable members, last month, the world marked the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. The Holocaust stands as one of humanity's darkest chapters. Yet, even in those turbulent years, some acts of humanity stood out. The Maharaja of Navanagar in Gujarat, also known as the Jam Sahib, offered refuge to Polish children, including Jewish children who had nowhere else to turn. I am told that a statue of Jam Sahib was unveiled in Moshav Nevatim recently. Thank you. Thank you for this honor and remembrance. Honorable members, after India's independence, many Indian leaders felt a kinship with the people of Israel. India's parliamentary debates of the 1950s are witness to their admiration for Israel's effort to develop agriculture in the desert. The kibbutz movement of Israel inspired our leaders like Acharya Vinoba Bhave and Loknayak Jayaprakash Narayan. First in my home state, Gujarat, and now across India, I've seen the approach of per drop, more crop work wonders in agriculture. My own first visit to Israel was in 2006 as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Later in 2017, during my visit to Israel as Prime Minister, our two countries elevated the relationship to a strategic partnership. Since then, our engagement has expanded in scale and scope, and we are committed to further consolidate this relationship across many sectors. Honorable members, for the last few years, India has been the fastest growing major economy in the world. Soon, we will be among the top 3 economies globally. At the same time, Israel is a powerhouse of innovation and technological leadership. This creates a natural foundation for our forward-looking partnership. We are committed to expanding trade, strengthening investment flows, and promoting joint infrastructure development. The bilateral investment treaty signed last year will provide confidence and predictability to our businesses. In the last few years, India has concluded a number of important trade agreements with other nations. To your west, the European Union and the UK. To your east, the UAE and Oman. Our bilateral goods trade has grown significantly in recent years, but it does not reflect the full scope of opportunity. That is why our teams are working hard to negotiate an ambitious free trade agreement. It will unlock the vast untapped potential in our trade relationship. We will also work closely in different formats, such as India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, and the I2U2 framework between India, Israel, UAE, and the US. Defense and security is another important pillar of our partnership. In November last year, we signed an MOU on defense cooperation. In today's uncertain world, a strong defense partnership between trusted partners like India and Israel is of vital importance. Honorable members, Israel is often called the startup nation. In recent years, we have also been working to unlock the innovation and creativity of our youth. I recall that in 2018, Prime Minister Netanyahu and I inaugurated the I Create Technology Business Incubator in India. Since then, it has supported nearly 900 such startups. Last week, we hosted the world's largest and the most democratized AI Impact Summit with representatives from over 100 countries. Our aspirational spirit aligns naturally with Israel's innovation ecosystem. I see a lot of synergies in areas such as quantum technologies, semiconductors, and artificial intelligence. We are also working with Israel on creating cross-border financial linkages using our digital public infrastructure. Honorable members, I mentioned how inspiring we found Israel's agricultural miracle in desert. Israeli expertise in precision irrigation and water management has already transformed agricultural practices in India. Together, we have established 43 centers of excellence across India that have provided training to more than 500,000 farmers. We should now set an ambitious goal to expanding to 100 centers to benefit millions of farmers and fishermen. Honorable members, at the heart of the India-Israel partnership are the ties between our peoples. When I first visited Israel in 2006, there were a handful of yoga centers in Israel. Today, yoga seems to be practiced in almost every neighborhood. I'm told that interest in Ayurveda is also growing in Israel. I invite more and more young Israelis to travel to India. They will witness the dynamism of our society and experience what holistic wellness can do for the body and the mind. I'm happy to inform this August House that the Indian Parliament has set up a parliamentary friendship group for Israel. I invite you all to visit India and look forward to having more exchanges between our members of parliament. I'm aware that Indian caregivers and skilled workers in Israel contribute immensely to families and communities. They have displayed remarkable courage and dedication in times of crisis, including on October 7. We are proud of them. As the Jewish teachings reminds us, whoever saves one life saves the entire world. Their service reflects the strength of the human bonds behind our cooperation. We will continue to facilitate the movement of workers and professionals across sectors that benefit both of our nations. Honorable members, we are both ancient civilizations, and it is perhaps no surprise that our civilizational traditions also reveal philosophical parallels. In Israel, the principle of Tikkun Olam speaks of healing the world. In India, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam affirms that the world is one family. Both ideas extend responsibility beyond immediate boundaries. They ask societies to act with compassion and moral courage. Judaism emphasizes halakha, guiding everyday conduct through law and practice. Hindu philosophy speaks of dharma, the moral order that shapes duty and right action. In both traditions, ethical life is lived through action and faith is expressed through conduct. There is an enduring similarity in our festivals as well. You celebrate Hanukkah with the warm glow of candles. Around the same time, we celebrate Diwali, the festival of lights, with the gentle radiance of lamps. Soon, India will celebrate the festival of Holi, filled with happiness and color. And around the same time, Israel will also celebrate Purim with enthusiasm and joy. Honorable members, our shared ideals are the deep foundations that give strength to our modern partnership. We are democracies shaped by history and focus on the future. Our partnership is grounded in shared experience and shared aspirations. Our strong partnership not only serves national interests, but also contributes to global stability and prosperity. Let us ensure that the friendship between India and Israel remains a source of strength in an uncertain world. Am Israel Khai. Jai Hind. Thank you.
That was Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, going down from the podium to the applause of the entire Knesset chamber. A warm speech, talking about friendship and partnership, everything from defense cooperation to counterterrorism, Doron to yoga, talking not only about the strategic alliance between the countries, but about common values. and coming back at the end and talking about how this partnership contributes to global stability. Doron, for the better part of an hour, we had one of the world's most important foreign leaders standing there next to an Israeli flag and talking about the wonders of Israel. What stood out for you?
First of all, a very impressive speech. I mean, he really drew up the landscape of this cooperation, talking about the rising power of India, the rising power of the Indian market, and on the other hand, Israel is the startup nation, the innovation, and the way those two pillars can work together. And on top of it, really working out this corridor, the whole idea of this IMEC works from India through the Saudi Arabia, through the Arabian Peninsula to Europe. So this is a sort of a vision of a landscape, a geopolitical landscape where India, the Middle East and Europe can reconnect, and I think it's a very important speech. He did mention the Palestinian cause as something that we have to work out. It's important. He didn't miss this chapter, but he showed sympathy and warmth to the suffering of Israelis in the 7th of October. So he stood by us. An impressive speech.
And getting a medal from Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana, making the gesture again to the applause of people, of the members of Knesset there in the plenum. Again, gesture of warmth to Narendra Modi after a very warm speech. Doron, you are right on the side of that, also making a mention of the UN Security Council resolution, of Donald Trump's initiative in the Gaza conflict. Sure. Also notably absent from his speech, as compared to the speech from Prime Minister Netanyahu beforehand, Netanyahu lavished praise on Modi personally. Modi, maybe against the backdrop of everything we've seen over the last 24 hours and the controversy of whether the opposition would or wouldn't attend the speech, I don't think mentioned Benjamin Netanyahu once after his opening.
I think it was a constructive speech. I want to hear more leaders talk constructively about the landscape of what they can do, where do they stand, where the other nations stand. In the end, there's relationship between nations, of course. Leaders are leading their nation in this context, but I think I like this tone, which was very constructive, very laying out the map. If you're a listener or people that don't know and exactly get the map, you really can learn from this speech. This is a speech that doesn't flatter each other, but you can really learn what's the future, where can we cooperate, and the whole story. And you mentioned the Palestinian issue is an issue because the Gaza thing, we have to understand, as long as it's not settled, does stand in the way of this corridor, this IMEC. And it's very important for us to move forward in the context. He did mention Trump in the context of the IMEC and the Abraham Accord as a milestone in the way for some reconciliation in the area.
And Modi is getting criticism at home from the opposition. I don't know how much it bothers him or concerns him. Some opposition members saying that he should have mentioned the Gaza, quote, genocide. Obviously, that's not the best move, and not that Modi would make it at the Israeli parliament. Sure. But the issue of Gaza in a complicated society like India's is one that India needs to take into account. And India, of course, is a rising power, has relationships around the world that it needs to manage. So I think it was to be expected that the Gaza conflict would make its way into the speech. But there we continue to see on our screen the members of Knesset hoarding around Narendra Modi and congratulating him as this very, very special afternoon and evening in the Israeli parliament winds down. Doron, I want to move on also to Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech. A few interesting themes that stood out to me. First of all, speaking about the strength of Israel, without getting into the domestic disputes here, it was a campaign speech, but it was a campaign speech with a positive message and not a negative one. And so often for Netanyahu, remember in that election round, in another league, there were big posters of him with Narendra Modi. Yeah, exactly. This speech almost seemed like the follow-up to those posters, a video in real time.
Yeah, we are ahead of some kind of election season. I'm not sure in how many months or so on. And to present Israel as this great empire, he was weighing the two empires, two ancient civilizations, two empires. We in technology with 10 million people, they are 1.4 billion with this great new market, and we get progress ahead. So in this respect, he wanted to present to the Israeli public, see where does Israel stand in the strategic map right now, and see how an empire like India stands near us and respects us and wants this cooperation. Of course, he was doing a speech that serves him, but the issue that the Supreme, I don't think it escaped Modi. The fact that I mean, even in a sort of a courtesy, Bibi should have done some move and present and bring the president of the Supreme Court. I'm sure it didn't escape him.
And of course, that did not happen. And instead, what we had is the opposition members of the Knesset, really up to the 11th hour, Doron, not sure about how they were going to handle this. On one hand, wanting to respect the occasion, respect the relationship, respect Narendra Modi, who is not a figure of controversy here in Israel. And on the other hand, stand up for what they see as a real affront to the Supreme Court and to its stature. Of course, a bitterly divisive subject here in Israel. There are arguments on both sides, but that's how the opposition see it. And coming to this compromise of absenting themselves in the main from the speech by Amir Ohana, the Knesset speaker, and then by Prime Minister Netanyahu, and then coming into the plenum, giving Yair Lapid his chance to go to the podium as the protocol in the Knesset allows, and giving a very short speech. Do you think that that speech served him well and served the occasion well? Do you think he handled that well, getting up and very quickly essentially apologizing to Narendra Modi, giving a chance for the coalition members of Knesset to hurl
If I were him, I would have extended my speech a little bit. I mean, the context is clear. I think it was important for them not to be present when Amir Ohana was giving his speech, and even Netanyahu. But then if you stand up as the head of the opposition, you could have extended a few words. It was as if it was too on a fresh, familiar relationship with Modi, saying, listen, we respect you, but I can't continue and I have to go. I would have extended a few more words. It would be more respectful. They were really in a dilemma, but I still hold Netanyahu responsible for this context. It was unacceptable, and the Supreme Court president should have been present as the protocol demands.
Now looking forward both in the micro and in the macro, Doron. Narendra Modi is here for just over one full day visit, sprawling over 2 days. We'll go to this innovation conference from the Knesset, obviously running a little bit late. And then we'll have his meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu tomorrow. They are expected to speak to the media. Again, the subject of the free trade agreement, potentially an agreement on defense. What do you think would be the most important takeaway from Israel's perspective as a practical matter from this visit by the time Narendra Modi takes off to go back to India?
For sure, the free trade, the cooperation in defense, the defense agreements, and of course the support in the political arena, for sure. So those things would be set, and I think would be set in stone, because the economies really wants to interact together. The issue, of course, when he would be leaving us, the clock would be ticking again, and people would be asking whether the attack comes or not, because this was a sort of...
Of course, referring to the potential U.S. attack on Iran.
Exactly.
Subject of much speculation, let us say, in Israel over the course of the last 2 months.
So it's interesting that Modi really gave us a break for a while from those kind of speculation, but the speculation would start in the minute he would leave. And of course, the question, if things would go with Iran to the direction of a military conflict, how would India stand in this context? The whole story would start again.
That's right. And then hopefully move on, Doron, if we will, from war to peace and the IMEC, that economic corridor that both leaders spoke to, that seems to be, in a sense, rising from the dead. How do you, very quickly, because we're almost out of time, how do you see that playing out and the relationship between India and Israel writ large after this momentous occasion of Narendra Modi speaking to the Israeli Knesset? Where does this relationship look going forward in the big picture?
I think he did mention the Abraham Accords, and the second floor of the Abraham Accord, this is the IMEC, basically. So basically we have India here, we have Israel here, we have Europe there, but in the midst, we have the relationship with the possible normalization of Saudi Arabia, which is important. We have the conflict in Gaza that has to be resolved somewhere in another, and we have the looming threat of Iran. We do want this corridor to be established. I think it's a great pivot for the future of the geopolitical landscape of us, India, and the West, Europe.
And even if there's not that, at least there's yoga, as Narendra Modi also reminded us. Doron Avital, thank you so much for being with us. And to all of you watching us from around the world, thank you for being with us too. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, getting a celebratory welcome at the Israeli Parliament. Thank you again for being with us at the top of the hour, Middle East Now, with Natasha Kirchuk. Thanks so much.
Tired of the hassle and high costs of selling a home? We can help. At Ideal Agent, we'll connect you with a top local agent that'll sell your home fast for top dollar, and all this for as low as a 2% commission.
We got the top dollar for our house and the lowest commission that I could have imagined. The house sold in 2 days. It was so exciting for us.
Ideal Agent is available nationwide. There's no obligation, and best of all, our service is completely free. Call today or visit idealagent.com.
secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most sought-after anti-aging products available today. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags in as little as 10 minutes. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects will last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results.
Look at this one under-eye bag. It's gone.
I've tried it all, and then I found Plexiderm, and this happened.
The best news, in this super inflated economy, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95 and free shipping. So don't wait. Just call the number on your screen.
Call 800-919-8734.
You live in Israel or you are preparing for your Aliyah? Congratulations. You have a smartphone? Perfect. Download the Olim app for free and discover everything we have to offer. Booking medical and administrative appointments, bills paying, debt verification, instant translation, contractor recommendation, request tracking, and much more. And if you can't manage it on your own, our team speaks your language and assists you with all your procedures in Israel, starting from 199 shekels per month, unlimited and for the whole family. Don't hesitate any longer. Download the app or contact us.
5,000 years of history, and no matter who has tried to kill us, we survive and we thrive. Every week, we'll bring you the latest Jewish news from around the world. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the magnificent. Join us every Monday for Jewish World Weekly.
Keeping up with current events in the Middle East can often seem challenging. That's why we're bringing you a new show to get past all the noise. Join me every Wednesday for an in-depth conversation where we break down the core issues concerning the region.
And we are back on Global Eye. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for sticking with us. Well, the long-awaited release of the Epstein files was supposed to provide more transparency to the public, but for the survivors of Epstein's sex trafficking ring, it has largely been a nightmare. Survivors say that their abusers' names are blacked out while their own identities and trauma remain painfully public. Now, the Justice Department insists it reviewed millions of pages carefully and followed the law, but critics on Capitol Hill argue that the redactions go too far. And for survivors, this isn't just about paperwork. It's about accountability. Listen to what they had to say.
That courage should never cost us our safety, our privacy, or our right to heal. Our current system does the opposite. The people who have harmed us, they are hidden, while survivors have been exposed. Abusers' names and contact information is redacted while our faces and stories are left on full display. This is not protection. This is betrayal. It hands back power back to the abuser and further strips survivors of our dignity.
A partial release of these files by the DOJ, riddled with improper redactions that expose the vulnerable and shield the powerful from accountability, is not justice. It is injustice.
All right, let's turn back to our panelists for further discussion. We have American lawyer and law professor Alan Dershowitz with us, who served on Jeffrey Epstein's legal defense team back in 2008, executive director of the Association of Rape Crisis Centers in Israel, Orit Sulitzianu, and our senior correspondent, Owen Alterman. So remember, everybody, we're going to start with our 30-second lightning round, where each of you are going to have 30 seconds to deliver your answer, and then we'll open the questions to longer answers. So here is the first question. Can the files be released without redactions while keeping victims protected? Let's start with our senior correspondent, Owen Alterman.
The victims' names have to be redacted, and if there were mistakes, it's really regrettable. It can happen in a situation such as this. I remember my own days in a law firm dealing with numbers of documents that don't approach these. But of course, the question is, are there too many redactions of some of the men in particular? And there is a debate about that. And my view is that there shouldn't be redactions in many of these cases. The Justice Department can't protect people from shaming. Unfortunately, that's the job of the public. And Natasha, it's the job of the media.
All right.
If it's improper shaming, of course.
Professor Dershowitz, what is your take?
Well, what we've just heard from a number of people are just a pack of lies. The exact opposite has happened. What's happened is the names of the accusers have been redacted. I'll read you one of them. Prominent names. And then it says Alan Dershowitz. And then it says redaction. Stated she gave him a massage on Epstein's plane. She was not a minor. I've never been given a massage on Epstein's plane. It's a total categorical lie. But I can't go after her because her name has been redacted, but my name has been released. So don't listen to liars who are out there saying that the names of the people who have done the bad things have been redacted. That's false. They have been given. The names of the victims have been redacted. Look, there have been some mistakes.
All right.
But in balance, what we've seen is McCarthyite false accusation by unnamed accusers. And if
All
you
right,
want to,
we have to
just read this. That's what it says.
Okay, Ori, what's your take?
Well, you should guess what I'm going to say. One of the most important things, so many women suffered and all their life are going to suffer. So therefore, their names should be protected. And all the people who thought it's fun to be in connection with Jeffrey Epstein, their names should be exposed. Then they could go to the public and give their explanations. If we want to change this kind of situation, the power system, we must make people, especially men in power, very careful. Who are they going with, and not being blind when they see evil.
All right.
How do I respond to a redacted name falsely accusing me of something I never did? This is pure McCarthyism. It violates due process. It violates Israeli law, American law. It violates the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witnesses. And it is common in these documents. The names of the accusers, the false accusers, are redacted. And you know who the victims of the false accusers are, in addition to people like me, whose lives have been hurt terribly by these false accusations? Real victims are hurt by these false accusers who are making fortunes of money off false accusations. Their names should be revealed. They should be subject to cross-examination. They should be prosecuted and sent to jail. This woman who accused me, whose name is redacted, has committed a serious crime. She lied to the FBI, and I'm not going to rest until I find out who she is and make sure she goes to prison. I am the victim here. She is the perpetrator.
I want to talk about just, the general feeling from the public. Do you believe that the public is ever going to feel that it has the full truth about Epstein's network? Ultimately, we saw these millions of files redacted. Going through them, it takes a terribly long time, file by file. We even hear reports from the New York Times, for example, that they have an entire team working on this and have only gotten through 2% up until this point. Has institutional distrust ultimately become the defining legacy of this case? Oh, and I want to give you a chance to answer that.
Of course, but I think, Natasha, over time, as we go through the documents and as the public, I think, and I hope, learns, and again, listening to Professor Dershowitz's case, it shows the importance of this, that people are able to inject nuance into a situation as we get more distance from the facts and as we get more information and as we're able to absorb more. By the way, there is another option out on the table, which is to give clemency to Ghislaine Maxwell. She said she wanted it from Donald Trump. She is campaigning for it, essentially. She says she will talk if she's given it. Now, Trump has given this a hard no. Politicians from both parties have given this a hard no. You can easily understand why. This is obviously a bad actor. But on the other hand, if she were given this and were able to get more information out there and able to help us separate the wheat from the chaff in terms of who really is culpable and who really isn't, maybe that would, on balance, even if it gives her an unjust clemency, help bring closure to this horrific incident.
Orit, what did you want to say? I saw that you were nodding your head.
I'm hearing a nodding. I think, of course, and I want to be very clear. Of course, I'm against anybody who did not do anything that would be victimized. I want to be very clear. But because I work so many years in this world, that usually in most of the cases, the victims just continue to be victimized, and the perpetrators many times just escape with it. And I can give you many examples, but we don't have time in this program. Also in Israel, the best thing I think is that somebody in the DOJ or somebody will do a very clear research of this, all of this information, and try to get the things, the truth out there, because this mega pedophilic case, mega trafficking case of one of the most influential people in the elite of the United States is an example of how things happen in the back office of the life. And if the truth will come out and the people who are to blame will be blamed, maybe some people will learn that this kind of behavior, this kind of trafficking, this kind of abusing women, even if they're over 18, it doesn't matter, or over 16, is something which is a huge, it's bad, it's horrible, it's abuse of human beings. And so it's very important that the truth will be researched and will come out. But I'm saying, usually the victims suffer more and more and more, and nobody takes care of them in the United States. You know, they're shouting, going on social media, but their names are out there, some of them at least, who are exposed, and who will give them compensation for the suffering they suffered? Nobody. And This is very, very sad.
You know, a final question, just because we're running out of time, unfortunately, and Professor Dershowitz, I want to hear your take on this. You advocated for the release of these millions of documents. We've seen them released, and there seems to be more confusion than ever. Like we said earlier, very few prosecutions, a lot of important people stepping down from positions of power. But what is the takeaway? Was this the right move? What do you think is going to ultimately be gained by the release of all these files, especially with so many redacted names, may I add?
Well, first of all, there shouldn't have been any redactions. Everything should be out there. Every accuser should be named. Every accused should be named. Let the court of public opinion decide who's telling the truth. And what I worry about is the minority of women who were below the age or were subject to violence, who were genuinely abused. The minority, and they were a minority, suffer greatly from the majority who have used this Epstein case to enrich themselves along with their lawyers. Every woman who filed a complaint, whether they ever met Jeffrey Epstein or not, got a $50,000 offer from the Epstein estate, including some as recently as yesterday and the day before. They got money from banks and other places. They've been compensated. Where are the victims of the false accusations? You can't imagine how much my family suffered, how much my children suffered, my grandchildren suffered, how many opportunities. The 92nd Street Y canceled me. Temple Emmanuel in New York canceled me. The Ramah School canceled me. All as the result of what everybody now acknowledges was a false accusation. And the records now demonstrate that the very person who accused me now says I wasn't even aware of anything. Where is my compensation? Where is the compensation of the dozens of people who have lost their jobs and lost their status? There are victims on both sides of this, and the media only cares about the story of one set of victims. I want both sets of victims to be treated fairly.
All right, Professor Dershowitz, I'm going to give a quick response for Owen Alterman on that question, and then for Orit, and we have to move on. Very short answers because we have a lot of other stories coming up.
Look, I can only hope that over time and with distance and with more work with the documents that we'll have a better sense and that the public will have a better sense of what happened. and that we can do our best to bring justice as best we can as a society in individual cases. And I am optimistic, more optimistic on the second part, that there will be a deterrent effect in the future on associations with criminals such as Jeffrey Epstein, especially in periods of time when that activity was known.
All right, Orit, quick 20-second answer.
Okay, I can hear the cry from you, Professor Dershowitz, but I am sure that most of the majority are the victims who suffered a lot. And even, of course, it's very bad that somebody who did not do something is victimized. But again, there were dozens and hundreds and even 1,000 of women. And it doesn't matter for me if they're 17, 16, or even 21, because this was an industry